Norway at Eurovision is quite the quandary. They have enjoyed success in the form of 3 wins, but also hold the record for the most 0 points. The 2009 winner's performance is still one of the most viewed videos on YouTube 15 years later, and was the highest scoring song ever under the old point system, yet they have finished last 11 times. With Norway, it's either famine or feast. Following Alessandra's top 5 finish in Liverpool, Norway's Gota tumbled to the bottom of the final scoreboard in 2024. At the time of recording, Gota's final performance YouTube video has 750,000 views compared to winner Nemo's 18 million views. So why did Gota and Norway fail to make waves in Malmo? This is Eurovision 365, I am Podrick, and that is what I'm going to try to answer in this video. Gota stood out in the selection process, leading fully into Norwegian cultural heritage. Gota translates into English as riddle or mystery, and the ethereal nature of this 1999 band made them stand out at the MGP National Selection Contest. The band is known for its unique blend of traditional Norwegian folk music with progressive rock, metal and electronica elements. Other notable acts at MGP included KEiiNO, known for their energetic and engaging performances. With their distinctive vocal blend of the 3 singers, this time they showcased a very crowd-pleasing song in the form of Damdigida. I have to confess, I'm not a major KEiiNO fan, but this year I actually enjoyed what they put forward. I would go so far as to say this is their greatest entry to date in my opinion. Indeed, Gota finished just 6 points ahead of KEiiNO, so it wasn't a landslide victory by any means. Another popular Eurovision album included Margaret Berger, hoping to return to Malmo with the electronic dance track Oblivion. However, a disappointing 7th place finish meant no return visit to Sweden for this performer. MGP is a very strong national final and could be said to be the holy trinity of Nordic national selection competitions, with Melodifestivalen and UMK making up the other 2. Sorry Denmark. Gota was far from an embarrassing misstep and was a solid and interesting entry that leaned fully into historical Nordic mythology. The lyrics of Oblivion are steeped in Nordic folklore, painting vivid images of transformation and the wild spirit of nature. The use of metaphor and symbolism adds depth to the narrative, inviting listeners to explore themes of change and self-discovery. Nordic folk in ancient Norwegian was a risk, but one that ultimately could have paid off. Interestingly, after the international voting, Gota ended up in 2nd place behind KEiiNO. This suggested that the transcontinental vote wasn't connecting with the song in the way Norway had hoped for, and could have been the first warning sign of danger ahead. KEiiNO's song is much more accessible, a fun dance song of varying tempos that is easy to sing and of course dance to. Gota's track requires more standstill reverence from the viewer and isn't something I could see being a dance hit in the Euroclubs in years to come. The band themselves were extremely kind and gracious. I had the good fortune to interview them several times on the Eurovision circuit. They were self-assured and confident of their song, keen to explain the historical significance of what they were bringing to the Eurovision stage. Gunhild Sundlil, the lead singer, in an interview during the qualifiers press conference, said, "The song is like giving birth."
Singing that song, Ulveham, is always like, it feels like giving birth. So
it was clear to see this was a very demanding song, arguably asking the most from a lead singer. The band had amazing chemistry, moving together in unison on stage and delivering emotionally charged performances time and time again. One criticism of the song is that it doesn't really go anywhere. It has low verses followed by an energetic chorus, but doesn't build to any kind of crescendo. At times it feels repetitive, particularly if you can't understand what is being said or sung about. The performance was visually interesting, and Eurovision often rewards countries that take daring risks when bringing something that is culturally very left field. KEiiNO scored a 2nd place last year with a song in the Finnish language, so I don't think Ulveham's complex Norwegian would have been enough to put fans and music professionals off. However, Oblivion doesn't have that toe-tapping memorability that fans could draw on when picking up the phones at voting time. The song was talked up as a dark horse, for myself included, and was potentially going to fare well with the juries. Yes, the jury scored this higher than the public, but it was only 12 from the jury to the public's 4, so there wasn't a huge gulf of difference. Overall, only 6 nations showed up to dish out some points for Norway. This year was brimming with culturally rich songs that were just more accessible and interesting. Baby Alessandра's track successfully married Croatian cultural tradition with a dance break that anyone could join in with. Greece brought something saturated with Greek culture while being fun and memorable. Norway are a nation that are afforded a great deal of leeway in Eurovision. If any other nation sent a man in an angel costume surrounded by devils, it's likely they would be punished come voting time, and yet Tix still made the final. Oblivion means wolfskin, and turning to another wolfskin of the bright yellow variety, Subwoofer would have been dismissed as novelty and banished to the bottom of the scoreboard had they came from an Eastern European nation, and yet for Norway they came 10th. For Norway it is either boom or bust, and unfortunately for Gota, 2024 was one of their bust years. However, it isn't all doom and gloom for Norway. Gota still qualified for the final, continuing Norway's long qualification streak. Norway haven't missed a final since 2016, the last time the contest was in Sweden, and Gota has continued this impressive streak. I hope the result doesn't put Norway off sending more daring and culturally interesting music to Eurovision. We as fans are all the better for it, as Eurovision is at its heart a showcase of diverse cultural styles from across our continent. I do still believe that MGP is the right vehicle for selecting songs that perform well at Eurovision. It feels that Norway could be within touching distance of a win within the next few years. They are one of the stronger performing Nordic nations. Again, sorry Denmark. But what do you think? Why do you think Norway came last at the final? Why do you think people didn't connect with the song? Please let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video. But until then, bye bye.